Just loving what you have.
I know, but I can't explain why one day to me that's like an experience of joy, and one day it's annoying.
Well, because you're believing your thoughts about what happened before you came home, or believing your thoughts about what you want and don't have. So that's a story of the future projected as a past experience or from a past experience.
So then I'll walk in the door.
And everything's your enemy.
Right.
You're looking for what's wrong.
Right. And there's lots of things to find wrong, if you're looking.
Well, that's the mind's job. Its job is to just like constantly look around and see this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and look to itself or the body it's identifying with. This is wrong, this is wrong, it's too old, it's too fat, it's too young, it's too short, it's too tall, it's unhealthy, so mind's job is to just, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. So when we begin to question those thoughts, then when mind begins to question itself, in other words, work itself, do the work with itself, then it's a very exciting event, and it's an unending event. It's a very creative event, and it begins to love. When the mind loves what it thinks, it loves what it sees, because everything it sees is projected out of itself.
Now, when the mind loves what it sees, I think I might have the answer to this, but
you're liking yourself,
right? But I'm doing that, or I can do that, right?
Yeah, you're in what people would refer to as a good mood. A good right. mood is when we're in a state where we're liking what we think.
Right.
And when we're liking what we think, we like what we see.
So moody is just that. In other words, just that being, it's liking your thoughts.
Yes. So depression is nothing more than someone believing their stressful thoughts. That's it.
Babies aren't born into the world of illusion until they attach words to things. When you're clear, it's great fun to observe that. I love being with my grandbabies. I love hearing what I teach them. That's a tree, that's a sky, I love you. You're grandma's precious angel. You're the most beautiful baby in the world. All these lies, and I'm having a wonderful time telling them, if I'm creating problems for my grandchildren, they can question their stressful thoughts when they grow up. I am joy. I'm not going to censor any of it. So I'm thinking, it's okay with me if I go and I tell them, guys, you have the best dad. I am the best. Really? Are you sure? I'm sure. And I don't have to, and that's a freedom for me. Do you know?
Well, you believe it also. So it just has to spill out of you. And from what I can see, it's, you are, from head to toe, and just so in love with your children, and so fair and so wonderful. You can say it, and it'll transfer through to them. It's true
right.
in all of your opinions.
Right.
And I feel that way about me too. I look at my grandchildren and I think, oh my goodness, and all of us grandparents and parents, we look at our children and the children in our lives, and we're in love, and anything we can say about that just feels true. So that's why I say those thoughts, why would we question them? Let's keep them. It's when we say them and they're not true for us.
Right.
It doesn't transfer. To work with the stressful thoughts is a way to experience honestly and genuinely all the affection and love that we feel and share with each other. When we're believing the stressful thoughts, it's, what we're believing in those moments surfaces, and it frightens our children and it frightens us, and there's the bad mood.
Right.
Because, any danger for children doesn't have to be expressed through fear and anger, and anger is a mask for fear. They don't have to be taught that way. Of course, they do have to be taught that way. as long as the parent believes their stressful thoughts. But it can be communicated so differently when the parent is sane.
What comes first, a feeling or a thought?
So the thought comes first. Thought is cause. It's original cause. It's the first. Without thought, what is there to feel? Nothing. So you have to be identified, like, I am Katie, and if I believe that, then I can feel. But what is feeling? There's no way to identify, so it's always thought and then feel. But people recognize feelings first, so they think feelings come first. And that would lead us to believe that we have been struck with feelings and there's nothing we can do about it, that life is just suffering. And when people question what they believe, then they come to see that thought first, then feelings. And this is wonderful news because it gives us control over our feelings. We can notice it, question what we were believing as we were feeling those feelings or just prior to feeling them, and turn that stress into a whole different experience. For example, if we're thinking a stressful thought, we question it. The next time that thought happens inside of us, we no longer believe it. So where there was stress, there's laughter. And I don't know anyone that opposes laughter unless they've just had a surgery and it hurts. And they don't complain too much about that.
But you could have the belief, like after someone dies, that laughter is wrong, that there's a period of mourning. That could be a belief.
Well, and there is a period of mourning for many, many people. And as well there should be. Look what they're believing. How could they not?
Right.
And I love that we respect sadness and that we are very respectful of all feelings. And it's feelings are an effect of thought. So when someone's sad, I respect it very deeply. I remember when sadness was possible for me also, and for all I know, it still is possible. But, not yet.
Right. Oh my God, that's great.
There's a respect about it that goes with it. Like if I see someone sad, I see someone being very, very honest, someone courageous enough to be open and feel what they feel, and I know what that pain is like.
Right.
And so there's a lot of respect that goes with that. If I believed what they believed, I would be sad too.
Right.
So I live in a state of grace.
So, like as we sit here, right, and talk, I don't, so it's hard to identify, like I feel things or whatever's happening, I don't know. Like I feel sometimes something behind my eyes or something here.
Yeah.
What is that is that feeling or is that just sensation or?
It's like as your mind opens, the symbol for that is the heart opens. And it's like when your mind opens, it's like your whole body, your whole being opens up.
Because I feel it, like as we're talking, I feel,
It's like a rain.
Here, a lot here,
Yeah. Yeah, you're being, your whole genetics, DNA is changing. I like to say that every time you see that something isn't true, something you've been believing all of your known life, you see that it's not true, then the next child that comes into the world cannot Velcro, cannot attach to that thought as strongly as they could have before you questioned that belief, because the world is believing that less.
Right.
And that is the end of war, and that's the power of this work, and that is what it's about, and it is personal work. It is not for everyone, it is for you. It's for the one that picks it up and gets personal with it.
Right. The
one that really wants peace in their life, and joy, and happiness, and wants to end the war with themselves. And also, the work is a peace movement.
I can see that.
It's certainly, just from reading 1,000 names, your life is shifting, and is it true has become so alive in your mind.
Right.
And it gets in there like It gets in there like like any other thought. Only it's a thought that's working, and it's a thought that opens the rest of itself, the rest of mind's self up to more. And as it continues to fall into that, the mind continues to open, the heart continues to open.
You know, your friend, I don't know if it was a friend, she was in the hospital, and this is that interaction, and you know, you told her that, okay, you gotta...
She said, I love you. I was on my way out and not expecting to, she wasn't expecting that she would ever see me again. She was dying. And she said, I love you. And I said, you know, sweetheart, that's not possible. You know, it's as long, and until you love cancer, you can't love me. Because every thought she believes about that cancer, the first time I don't give her what she wants or threaten what she has, then those thoughts would be attached to me just like they are cancer. Because there are no new stressful thoughts. We don't like cancer. We don't like, you know, we put those thoughts on our partners, on our children eventually, when anything opposes our will or what we want.
Well, when you say this, I can get it. It's very against my beliefs, do you know? Or something.
And cancer happens.
Right.
And I do like to say that cancer has a right to life. I'm for right to life. And we can do chemotherapy, we can do all of that, and cancer lives or dies.
But I you know, if I look, I prefer not to have it.
Well, how intelligent of you.
What a genius, I knew it.
Yeah, yeah, but you know, of course, who wants cancer, you know, when they love life? And I have to say that I'm open one way or the other. I don't have a preference because, you know, where I live is what do I know about what's best for me?
Right. Okay, well, I can't be there.
Well, you know, it doesn't matter whether you are or not.
Right. But I get it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
I get that it's possible.
Yeah, it's almost like if I say, you know, if I have cancer, that's fine with me, and if I don't have cancer, that's fine with me. And it's almost as though people are frightened to be that awake or aware about balance in their life or what is in their life, as though we're so superstitious if we say, it's okay if I have cancer, that I'm actually going to bring it on.
Right. If I think that I like it, then I'm inviting it.
And look at what ancients we are to still be superstitious. I mean, it's like, oh, I can't say that. I can't even think that.
Yes,
it could happen. You know, like I have the power, but when people say you create your own reality, people get cancer and they say, oh, what did I do to create the cancer? You know, like they did it. But that's not what creating your own reality means. And people, if they would do the work, they would come to see what it really means. So I can safely say, you know, if I get cancer, you know, I get it, and if that's what's best for my life, I'm for it. And what do I know? But I know right now, cancer is not what's best for my life because I don't have it, and I could be sitting here just full of it. But until a doctor tells me I don't have cancer,
right.
in other words, until I believe it.
Right, because it's not in your thoughts, right?
Well, no, I don't believe it.
Oh, I see.
Because they don't tell me. And of course, you know, if we look to this one, to me, I don't know. And it's not my business if this body has cancer. My business is to work with my mind and keep this body as healthy, as respectfully as I can. That's how I say it. And the rest is all good.
Who is God in the book? What do you mean when you say God?
God, for me, is reality. because it rules. And it rules, absolutely. What I mean by that is, it is what it is. It is what it is. And in other words, this table is sitting here. It's a table. I call that the last story. You question that and you don't have much, and that's okay too. But the last story, this table. So that's reality in this unapparent world that people believe they live in. So, and that's enough.
Right.
Like a table, that's reality. Okay, now the story we put on the table, that's not reality. Using table
It's a pretty table.
It's an ugly table. It doesn't work in here. It does work in here.
So let me ask you, okay, I don't know if this is an odd question, but let's say you're an interior decorator, right? And and your home is an Architectural Digest. That's considered beautiful, but there's like an agreement that that's beautiful. And there's a certain home that most people agree wouldn't be in there. Is that true?
Well, it's up to you to look at the magazine and determine for yourself. You could say, I'm the only one that thinks this is terrible, and question that. Or isn't this beautiful? And imagine that other people agree. And it's just all up to you.
But what gets it into, in other words, what gets it in there? What gets it into the magazine?
Well, in the moment, your head did. In the moment, your head did. That's the only place it exists, whether you're holding the magazine or we're just discussing it right now.
But in other words, right, okay, I can...
Good,
yeah,
caught up with yourself.
All right, good, I got it.
Yeah, it brings you out of another world,
right,
into man sitting on chair talking with friend.
Right.
That's really nice. Again, that's the last story, and it's enough for me. It's all I ever need to know is what's going on right here, right now, and be awake to that, and serve that at 100%.
Do you ever feel overwhelmed or stressed?
I can't honestly say that I do.
Because there are times when I don't know, whatever it is that the kids have to be somewhere, I've got 50 tax returns to do, I've got some guy who came into my office who I believe said something.
Whatever you're believing is what is overwhelming you, not life. Life never overwhelmed anyone. You're really only doing one thing, and everything else is what you're believing.
You say reality is kind, and it's
well,
how is that kind? It seems like a label that...
Well, Einstein said the most important question to answer is the universe friendly? And so I fell into that answer not even knowing there was a question about 20 years ago. And nothing has changed my mind about that. The universe is friendly. And anytime anyone's mind looks out and perceives something as not friendly, they're going to feel stress. They're going to physically feel stress. That mind identified. Okay, the simple version, anytime you judge anything or anyone as not friendly, not for you, as unkind, you're going to feel that as stress, or out of order. You're going to feel that as stress. So what the work does is we question our thoughts about the world, our stressful thoughts about the world, and we come to see every time that the universe in fact is friendly, that it's all happening for us, not to us, and there's no exception to that.
No matter what happens.
Wars, famines, cancer, all of it. All of it. No mistake in the universe. Nature is friendly. And that's why I'm inviting everyone that doesn't see it that way to identify their thoughts about reality, write them down, and get very still. These 4 questions and the turnaround, this is meditation. It's mental yoga, and it's very important for people who really want to end the war in the world. if you don't do war with yourself, you would just automatically know how not to do war with the rest of the world.
Well, that makes sense, and that, so I can like feel that or see it or whatever you want to call it, think it, or, that imagine if everybody questioned everything as if it were true, it would stop war.
Let's say, for example, like you as a father and me as a mother and grandmother, let's say something happened to one of your children, and you immediately believe that's a terrible thing. And that is the mind that would say the universe is unfriendly, that the universe is terrible, that a very terrible thing has happened. Okay, that causes grief. That argues with the nature of the universe at a very combatant level. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's a terrible thing that your child died. Is that true? Can you absolutely know that it's true? And look how you react when you believe that thought.
It constricts.
Your world ends.
Right.
Your world ends, but only to your deathbed, and everything else becomes second best. The sadness immediately takes over. I mean, a person could sit in this. How do you react when you believe the thought that it's a terrible thing? And you just sit in that. Again, this is meditation. And then the fourth question, who would you be without the thought that your child's death is a terrible thing? And I'm not even asking people to do this. I'm not even expecting them to. I'm just inviting them to peace. I'm inviting them to reality. So who would you be without the thought?
Now I'm going to answer this because I kind of, what if the answer is not a good father?
Yes, a terrible father.
Right.
And terrible fathers are fathers that are so confused that the daughter's or the son's death isn't enough misery. They have to be miserable the rest of their lives because of that death. That does not make any sense.
Right.
The death of a child is enough. That is enough suffering. So how do you react? You become sad. You teach the other 4 children that death is a terrible thing, that it is the worst thing that can happen. They lose their parents just like that. There go their parents. There goes that harmonious family down the tubes.
Right.
That's misery. That's the effect of believing basically that the universe is unfriendly, that that's a terrible thing. Okay, so who would you be without the thought? A terrible father because you're not teaching your family fear and terror and stripping them from what they had. So to really sit with it and look at it.
Right.
But for me, who would I be without the thought? Woman sitting in chair.
Right. Okay.
With the child, woman sitting in chair. Without the child, woman sitting in chair talking to friend. That's reality. That's reality.
Right.
In the same way I'm doing it right now. So the turnaround on my child's death is a terrible thing. The opposite turnarounds are simply taking the concept to the opposite.
Right.
And not being tricky with it. There's no set way to do it, just using the same words, finding opposites, and putting ourself on it as an opposite. Let's say my child's death is a terrible thing. Turned around, my child, what is the opposite of terrible? Wonderful. My child's death is a wonderful thing. Okay, if the universe is friendly, why is it better for your child? Why is it better for you? Why is it better for the world if the universe is friendly? And so answer that. And if you find one, you can find one reason, you can find 2. If you find 2, you can find 3. If you find 3, you begin to live in that polarity until nothing moves you from your nature.
I mean, the thing that...
Not your child's death, nothing.
I mean, what I can definitely see is that, and it's hard because it's a thought, but the thought's powerful. It's almost like, it's kind of like when someone dies, the thought of them is like keeps them alive. But when I have the thought, oh, my child died, it's almost like it's happened, not, the thought is real, Because now I'm like, oh my God, but I can definitely see that it's very hard for me to say, but I can definitely see a power in the turnaround, because then I'm still here.
Yeah.
For everyone else and
why
myself.
Is it a wonderful thing?
Yeah, no, it's true. Okay.
And then another wonderful thing, what's another? They don't have to suffer.
Right.
And
they won't have to go through. I can tell you lots of stuff.
Okay, so death becomes the most exciting celebration. It is not to mourn, it is to celebrate. But when the mind believes it's a terrible thing, it's locked in, and the mind begins to seek all the reasons why it's terrible, and families lose each other.
Right.
It costs them the children that are alive. Everyone lives in the tomb. Yeah. So let's look at another one. On my child's death is a terrible thing. On my death is a terrible thing. The death of you and the father that you were to your other children has just died. He's grieving. With the child that went you. And there goes the father of the other children that are left. You're too busy suffering to prove how much you love the other child, and that's not doing your other children a lot of good. And also, we are teaching them to suffer rather than celebrate death and what is. So another turnaround, it's a terrible, my child's death is a terrible thing. My thoughts about my child's death are a terrible thing.
It's interesting because Emma, who's 10, my Emma, she worries about the triplets. Last week we were at the playground, we couldn't find Sam. She couldn't find him. But it's a thing, since very young, since the triplets came home. Yeah. And Emma freaks, and she's frozen. And, people have commented about it before. And some people see it as a virtue, like, oh, here's Emma worries about her. But then, I don't know, I'm seeing something else about it now.
It's a virtue as Emma suffers. She's really in fear.
She's in fear.
It's painful.
Very, for her. And she tells me, Daddy, I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know how to get her out of it.
Well, you know how to get you out of it. You know how to get her out of it. You say, Sam's not okay, honey. Can we absolutely know that that's true? We can't know. So let's go find Sam. Let's go find Sam.
Take her and find him.
Yeah.
Right. Well, somehow something in me is like, I have compassion for her with it now. It's not like, Emma, what are you doing getting so,
Yeah.
And then I'm that, and
she's believing her thoughts about Sam.
And then I'm doing the same.
You're believing your thoughts about Emma.
Right. And it's just all sort of goes to pot,
Yeah. It's and we just see that as common existence.
It's funny because in the book, I don't know, it's my thing, but I sort of connected to Roxanne.
Yeah.
And again, it's more of the children thing.
Yeah. So you just say her name, my daughter's name, and I'm just filled with joy and love and tears come to my eyes. We're so close. Right. But that is dead or alive. For all I know, she's dead. A truck hit her. What do I know?
Right.
So it would not be her death that would bring suffering into my life. It would be what I was thinking the moment they told me she died.
I'm going to tell you this story that I love in the book, and it just spoke to me, and I don't know why, but so you're, I don't know where you were with her, and you meet a friend comes up to you in the supermarket with Roxanne, and there you guys are strolling down buying whatever you're buying, and over walks this friend who hasn't seen you for a long time and says, oh, Katie, how's your mother? And you say, oh, my mother's great, she's dead. Mm-hmm. And then Roxanne says, as you walk out, she says, Mom, you just really can't talk to people like that. They just can't handle it.
On this book tour, many people came to thank me for 1,000 names. And one woman in particular said, I've always worried about losing my cat. that was like the worst thing that could ever happen. And I've had my cat for 20 years, and my cat died, and I am not grieving. I can't make myself grieve. I can't make, that cat is so everywhere. It's like nothing shifted and changed. And she said it comes from reading this book. The very thing she dreaded just isn't happening. So there was a great shift took place in that woman, and all she heard was the truth, and it made sense to her, and her mind was able to shift to that because it just made sense. Those simple truths through 1,000 names, and they're just traveling through the planet and waking people up to what is and what isn't, the difference between those two.
So what does she mean when she said you can't talk to people that way, they can't handle it?
She watched this change take place in me from the beginning, and she would, without references, you learn everything again. Like, Mom, we don't wear our pajamas to the market. We only wear them in the house. And I'm going, okay, so we wear this here, we wear this. There's a lot for the mind to remember. It's a crazy dream. Life is a dream. So let's see, in the dream it goes better if you don't wear the red sock with the black sock. You wear 2 reds or 2 blacks. And I think, my goodness, who thinks of these things?
Right.
Who put this stuff together? And you just get so excited and about, wow, and she was kind of defining how we do things here, giving me references. And because the don't know mind, at the level I was experiencing it, and again, no one has to start from scratch this way, and if they do, they're perfectly safe.
Right.
As I would walk through airports and it says baggage, I don't have to know. Gate 53, I don't have to know, it's all done for me.
Right.
Want to know what time it is? Ask someone. And people love to be asked, they love to be asked. I recall catching a red eye one night, and there was the nicest looking man seated next to me when I sat down, and he had on this wonderful business suit, and it was just so comfortable to sit down, take his hand in his arm, put it in my lap, close my eyes, and go to sleep. And when I woke up, he had not moved his hand. And things like that, I say, he was someone wise enough to know that we don't have to be introduced, that we're all friends. And when we need each other, we're there for each other.
You picked the right guy.
Mm-hmm. Well, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? You see, your belief system, whatever you were thinking in that moment,
right,
keeps you from experiencing people as your friends. That's why you see, that's where the term stranger happened. Right. There are no strangers. There is no one that thinks differently than you do. In other words, there are no new stressful thoughts in every language in the world. There are no new ones. And as long as we're stuck in those thoughts, in other words, as long as we're believing those thoughts, we are going to remain as dinosaurs, like ancients, like superstitious, frightened children.
Right. Crazy a little, right?
Crazy a lot.
Crazy a lot.
We still kill people on this planet thinking that it's going to work differently than it ever has, and it doesn't.
There are people who believe, smart people, intellectuals, if you will, writers and, columnists, and you've met who believe in war, or who believe, and they're smart. So you can get a Harvard professor who believes what he believes. And so, you take someone like me and I'll say, oh, that's a Harvard professor. He knows. So I follow, or I agree. You begin to believe what he believes. And so you remain a believer. And sometimes when I see someone who has an opinion, and it could even be about war, and they make sense to me, I go with it.
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's not right or wrong. It's just that it makes sense to you, and that's where you go, and that's how we do it.
The don't know mind. You mentioned the don't know mind. What do you mean by that?
Well, the don't know mind could be true. I don't know. So the don't know mind is an open mind. It's not a stupid mind. It's not an uneducated mind. It's simply the mind that is open to, I don't know, and I'm open. The I know mind is like a straitjacket. It is the teacher, not the student. And the teacher doesn't grow much. The student is available to learn and grow and to open to new things.
See, I don't know. As we're sitting here, I don't see you as a teacher.
Well,
I don't see you,
to me, that's a compliment.
I see you as like, I don't know, it's like a dance or something. I don't even know the word, but...
I'm a teacher in the sense that we all are. If I am living a life that is fearless, that's what I'm teaching. If I'm living a life that is fearful, that's what I'm teaching. Mm-hmm. So we all are equal teachers in that. It's just, what are we teaching?
But I definitely see you as